How's it going, everybody? Nerds Rising here, and welcome back to the Nerd Cave. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at a very strong triple shiny team sent into the channel by Papa Legba 88. And Papa Legba let me know that not only did he use this team to hit Veteran for only the third time ever, he also went up around 250 elo with the team in just 5 sets of battle. So this team appears to be very strong, and the best part about it is, by the time I actually post this video, we will be in the Catch Cup, and the Catch Cup will be the only league available. Really awesome play there by Niantic, but the cool thing about this team is it is eligible for the Catch Cup, as we've seen all 3 of these Pokemon in the wild in the last couple of months. So we're going to be getting right into the gameplay here and taking a look at Papa Legba's veteran push here in the Great League, as we lead Shiny Alolan Ninetales into Shadow Swampert. And this is pretty neutral overall. Now, the problem here is the Shadow Swampert will evenly pace the Ninetales, so they will just be winning CMP if you just go straight for the moves here. Can tank 1 Hydro Cannon, but at the same time, the Shadow Swampert can also tank 1 Weather Ball. So we'll have to see. He tries to make the Hydro Cannon catch onto the Lantern. I really like that play, but the opponent does hold on to their energy, and they do full send the Earthquake as well, and he correctly shields it. So now, should be able to outpace to these Surfs, and the opponent is just willing to let their Swampert go down, and they actually bring in a shiny Mandibuzz here to this loaded Lantern. So questionable play here by the opponent. They must be very, very weak to this Lantern in the back. They do go for the Dark Pulse. He's massively overfarmed, and they bring in a Medicham actually, so not really sure why you'd bring the Mandibuzz into the Lantern here, but again, these battles are starting out in the lower ace range. So sometimes you might see some questionable plays by the opponents, but that is totally fine because we are all here to learn and get better at the game. And the Medicham here is throwing Ice Punches, does actually elect to shield and farm all the way down. I'm not so sure about this play because the Mandibuzz here obviously still has some energy, and Mandibuzz fully walls the Runerigus. But the nice thing about this is he's going to be able to get multiple Sand Tombs off on this Mandibuzz, and the Mandibuzz now has no way to reset the debuff. So they're massively overfarming, but I believe he does have a move banked on the Lantern and the Ninetales, and now he's going to get the last shield here with the Weather Ball. And he's going to actually be able to KO probably with the Surf here, since the Mandibuzz is triple debuffed on their defense. So I actually don't mind the play. After seeing this play out, I don't mind the play there of shielding the Runerigus, because after triple debuffing that Mandibuzz, it was just absolutely dead in the air there. So next battle, we have a Shadow Alolan Ninetales on the lead. And the Shadow Alolan Ninetales is actually running Charm, so this will be a losing matchup for his A9 here, and he's just going to full YOLO the Dazzling Gleam. Does the opponent respect it? And no, they don't, and they make the catch onto the Weather Ball. Beautiful play there by Papa Legba, recognizing the opponent survived and they had the move, and tanks the move very comfortably on the Lantern. And the opponent does go down, and they bring in a Medicham here to this shiny Lantern, and they do correctly shield the Thunderbolt. Probably just barely would live a Psychic, but I'm not sure he would make another move afterwards, so he is going to respect it, and they do get the defense trap as well. And I believe this is actually just an Ice Punch here. Just an Ice Punch. He does live it, and he's going to commit to the Surf here. And maybe I actually don't think he's going to make another Surf. Probably should have just full sent the Thunderbolt there, but actually, this might work out even better because he gets a massive farm down with the Runerigus, and the opponent has an Azumarill in the back end. Not a great matchup for the Runerigus here, but these Sand Tombs, again, the opponent only has 1 Pokemon left. They're not going to be able to reset that debuff. And at this point, I think this game should be won. Still has a shield, and at this point, you can just shield up and probably just commit to Sand Tombs at this point. And this should be a GG, I believe. The opponent, even if they make the Ice Beam, I believe the Lantern can probably just come in and spark all the way down. It is fairly low, but actually makes the catch instead, like an absolute savage. I think he still had that game in the bag without the catch, but that catch just cements the opponent's fate, and we're going to pick up a very nice win here in game number 2. Very well done. And by the way, these sets are in order. He sent me in 4 full sets. I didn't include them all just because the video is going to be over 30 minutes long, but these are in order, so as you watch these videos here, these battles, we will be seeing him climb up in the ranks as well. And very nice catch once again there. Catches the Hydro Cannon onto the Lantern. I really like the way, honestly, this trainer's playing so far. Playing very, very well considering that he's in the ace range right now. Unfortunately, the catch was nice, but now this Lantern is locked into a Trevenant. But honestly, that Thunderbolt still did quite a bit of damage, and now maybe we can come in here and farm all the way down with the Ninetales, and actually calls the Seed Bomb as well, and is going to just play it safe. Maybe the Trevenant would have made another Seed Bomb. I was not counting, and they just elect to let it go. They bring back in the Greninja, and honestly, Greninja is looking to be very, very difficult for this backline, because now that his Lantern is gone, the Lantern really was the only response to the Greninja here. And now I think Runerigus is probably just going to get wrecked here, especially now that this is a CMP tie. The opponent does force the last shield. And yeah, this is going to be a GG. Hydro Cannon probably one-shots. I'm not 100% sure. And it does one-shot from nearly full health. And the Ninetales is going to get farmed out. So you can't win them all here. That, honestly, Greninja lead is just a really, really bad core breaker for the team. And despite his best efforts, not able to pull off the win in Game 3. As we lead a Froslass here in the next battle. And this is a pretty neutral matchup. I believe Froslass does win this, but the Dazzling Gleam is going to do a ton of damage here if the opponent lets it go. And they do actually let it go. And now he's going to bring in the Lantern, try to snipe. The opponent does switch out, and they meet his Lantern with a Scrafty. So this is a pretty neutral matchup. Honestly, I think this is a winning matchup now for the Lantern after the Spark buff in terms of damage, because one foul play is not going to KO. And I believe the Lantern will actually outpace here to the Surf, and they do outpace here. And this is going to be a win for the Lantern if the opponent elects to let it go. But no, they actually shield up and they farm all the way down. And this is actually a questionable play by the opponent, because the opponent has already seen that he has the Ninetales on the lead. So I think the opponent probably should have just let their Scrafty go down. Granted, they do have switch advantage, but basically they just wasted a shield, as that energy from the Scrafty did absolutely nothing to the Ninetales, and the opponent has a Clefable in the back here. So Clefable is a pretty neutral matchup for Runerigus. This Clefable is just about in Shadow Ball range, and the Runerigus can quite comfortably tank that move, and the opponent actually tries to make the Shadow Ball catch there. He holds on to his energy and just goes straight for the Sand Tomb. And now, I think you can just double Sand Tomb this Clefable, and even if they call it, you're just going to farm them down with Shadow Claws, and this should be a GG. The Clefable is not making enough moves here to KO this Runerigus, and Shiny Runerigus is going to take this game here with a little bit of style. I really like the Shiny Runerigus, guys. Shiny Runerigus is one of the cooler looking shinies in this game, as we pick up a Defense Deoxys lead here in the next battle. And I do like the safe switch here, just because if the opponent switches out of here, eventually maybe we can align the Runerigus to this thing, and Runerigus just absolutely crushes the poor Defense Deoxys. So the opponent eventually switches into an Umbreon, and this is absolutely perfect to see the Umbreon here and not against the Runerigus, and does actually want to commit a shield here. Maybe just to potentially get a shield back from the opponent. We'll have to see. I doubt they're going to be shielding their Umbreon. Umbreons typically don't like to shield, but I don't quite think this is foul play range. But actually, if you look at his Lantern IVs, he does have that cool shiny flex, but his Lantern IVs are absolute trash. So yeah, the Lantern does not survive that foul play. I think probably a better IV Lantern probably would have, but the opponent is now going to pivot back into their Defense Deoxys, and this is a very unfortunate situation for the opponent, because honestly, if he wants to, he could just fully farm this Deoxys all the way down, and if they try to bring back in their Umbreon, they're so low that honestly, a Shadow Ball probably KOs an Umbreon from this range. So just going to let these Psycho Boosts go and farm all the way down. Has so much energy now, and they actually bring in a Alolan Ninetales, so not sure about that play from the opponent there. They probably should have brought their Umbreon in, forced him to throw, and they shield the Sand Tomb, and now this Shadow Ball is going to nearly one-shot. It nearly does. Actually, the Ninetales does farm all the way down, but the opponent tries to catch the move. They basically have just thrown this game now because he had back-to-back Weather Balls, and that's a GG. So if the opponent, honestly, there would have just stayed in, that might have been a little bit tricky, but they end up throwing the game in a little bit of style there as he takes the win. Next battle, we have a Shadow Alolan Ninetales on the lead, throws the Weather Ball, gets the shield, and makes a very nice Poison Fang catch here onto the Lantern, and the opponent answers the Lantern with a Lickitung. Again, this is absolutely perfect to see this here against the Lantern and not against the Runerigus. And I do actually think this team makes quite a bit of sense if you think about it, because with the Fairy type on the lead, when you safe switch into the Lantern, the opponent, if they have a Dark type in the back or something that would potentially beat the Runerigus, is going to be very likely to bring that in here to keep it away from the lead. So that is why these opponents are bringing like Dark types and Ghost counters into the Lantern here. So it makes quite a bit of sense. The team is working as intended, and the opponent now brings back in a Medicham actually, and Medicham actually appears to be running Psycho Cut. So very interesting moveset here by the opponent, and they're on Dynamic Punch as well, and maybe they're on Dynamic Punch and Ice Punch? I'm not 100% sure here, but Runerigus should be in an okay spot here. They bring back in the Nidoqueen, and Nidoqueen is just going to be fully walled here. I actually would have liked to see him go for the Shadow Ball here, because, yeah, the Nidoqueen was going to be very unlikely to shield, considering they're in such a bad situation. They do actually live that. They land the Shadow Earth Power, and now, no, the Medicham is going to make the Ice Punch, and this is looking like it's going to be a loss. But it's actually a Dynamic Punch, and Runerigus lives it on 2 HP. Oh my gosh. I think maybe they were on Dynamic Punch and Psychic potentially, and maybe they were just short of the Psychic. So WoW ends up clutching out that game in the end anyway. Very nicely done as we lead into a Clodsire here in the next battle. And Clodsire is just so incredibly bulky, guys. That Weather Ball just did absolutely nothing. And the opponent is going to answer the Lantern safe switch after getting a shield with a Cresselia. So this is looking a little bit tricky, not going to lie. Cresselia is a pretty nice answer to the Lantern, as Grass Knot will be hitting for super effective. But the nice thing is, Lantern should be easily living one Grass Knot here, and they are already at a second one. Do you shield this, or do you just let it go? No, does want to make a play for switch advantage here. Gonna go for the Surf now. Did build up to the Thunderbolt, and the opponent does respect it, and I think he will outpace here to another Surf. Surf isn't going to be enough to KO, but it should put this Cresselia into farm down range, and they actually double shield, and now he's going to pivot into the Runerigus here, and he will be able to live one Grass Knot and probably commit to the farm down, and the opponent is staying in. They finally switch out into a Pelipper, and he actually goes for the Sand Tomb here first. I don't really know about this play, to be honest. I think he should have just gone right for the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball wouldn't have KO'd here, but yeah, now the Pelipper here can massively overfarm, take out this Runerigus here, and now maybe do you bring in the Lantern to farm down? And yeah, since they're double debuffed, actually able to get the Spark down there, but the Cresselia is going to take out the Lantern. So yeah, definitely would have been better just to commit to the Shadow Ball there on the Pelipper, force them to throw, but this should still be okay, because I believe, actually, is this Clodsire in Weather Ball range? It is very, very bulky, and it lives on 1 HP, and now the question is, can we survive the Sludge Bomb? And he barely lives the Sludge Bomb, so very interesting mid-game there. I think it was a little bit of a mistake in the Pelipper matchup, but still manages to clutch out the win in the end. Very nicely done, as we pick up a Galvantula lead here in the next battle. And I'm going to take just a brief moment to take a drink of water, guys, because these battles are just absolutely flying by, and I am barely keeping up with the commentary here. Very nice bait call there by the Ninetales as well on the lunge. As we all know, these gals just absolutely love to just bait left, right, and center, and the opponent actually safe switches into the Azumarill, and this is just looking absolutely awful for the opponent here. Lantern can very comfortably tank that. I'd actually like to see an undercharge here as well, just to get a little bit of extra farm. Now, obviously, that doesn't quite KO, but yeah, if you undercharge that to like maybe a Great, you get a couple extra sparks and come out here with even more energy, because I believe that Gal does have a move, yeah, and he is going to commit the shield just to guarantee this damage. But I don't quite think the Surf is going to KO now after this debuff. We'll have to see, and the opponent does actually live that, and they do make another move. But this is actually perfect, because now you can just let this go. No, actually going to commit to this shield to the Lantern, and there's an Altaria in the back, and yeah, this is just game over anyway. I was going to say, what it probably would have been the better play there was just to let that go, and then come in and get a farm down on the Galv. But either way, they had an Altaria in the back, so it really wasn't going to matter. He still had a full health Runerigus in the back, as we pick up a Medicham lead here in the next battle. And this is kind of awkward, because Medicham can make this a very close fight, and they're over-farming massively, so he's just going to full send the Dazzling Gleam here, and the opponent lets it go. He one-shots the Medicham, and the opponent just surrenders. You absolutely love to see it. Sometimes that happens, guys. Sometimes I'll do that, where I just, like, misplay a lead, and like maybe try to call a bait and get nuked, or I just like make a bad switch or something, and then I'm just like, you know what, F this, I'm out of here, just stop left. It happens to everybody. So it takes that win there, and I believe, was this a Cresselia lead here? I actually wasn't paying attention to the lead. I don't think he would have safe switched if it was a Cresselia lead, but I'm not 100% sure. Likely it was a different lead, and the opponent brought in the Cresselia to meet the Lantern, but we'll have to see how this plays out. Lantern does actually win CMP here, and is potentially going to be forcing a shield back from this Cresselia, and does get the shield. And now I'd like to see this just be let go, and then get some farm on either the Ninetales or the Runerigus. And he is going to commit to the farm down here on the Ninetales, and they do make another move. I believe this is just a Grass Knot, though, so can let this go, just a Grass Knot, and I believe, yeah, it was a Drapion lead, actually, yeah, so Drapion lead, and they are actually on Aqua Tail and Crunch, it appears. So this is not a bad matchup for the Ninetales now that we know that they're not on Sludge Bomb. So maybe Wilkes just let this next one go, recognizing he can live on Aqua Tail, and yeah, does do that. Gonna maybe get a shield here with this Weather Ball, and then probably should switch into the Runerigus and try to commit to the farm down, but no, stays in, farms down with the Ninetales actually, and there's a Toxicroak in the back, and this poor Toxicroak is going to have an absolutely awful day when they see this Runerigus, and they actually shielded the Weather Ball as well, and yeah, the opponent's just like, you know what, no, I've got better uses of my time than to get farmed down by a Ghost Ground type, and they surrender as we pick up the absolute dream lead there, the Shadow Dragonite. into the Alolan Ninetales, and the opponent safe switches into Cresselia. Gonna meet the Cresselia here with the Runerigus, and they actually go for a Moonblast there, so maybe they're on Moonblast and Future Sight, which is a pretty interesting moveset for the Great League, to be honest. I think Grass Knot kind of is a necessity if you're going to be running Cresselia in the Great League, but maybe the opponent just didn't want to use the TM. Now here, this is kind of a risky bait in my opinion. Yeah, and they do no-shield that, and the reason for that is they already know that they're in a really rough spot since the Alolan Ninetales is still in play, so they were very unlikely to shield that move. They actually do shield the second one there, and probably would have been better just to let the Dragonite go down if you're the opponent, but either way, they do land the superpower. They have a Bastiodon in the back, and this should be a GG, I believe. I know that Lantern previously won the one shield versus Bastiodon before the Spark adjustment in energy. I'm not 100% sure after the you know, it's tough whether I call the Spark update a nerf or a buff, because it kind of is a buff in terms of damage, which I think overall makes it a better move, but it does make it slightly less spammy. And as you see, actually the Lantern does actually get outpaced there by the Bastiodon because of the fact that Spark does less energy. Now, excuse me guys, I cannot speak, but either way, I believe we should still be okay, because this Dazzling Gleam should be KOing here. No, the Bastiodon actually lives it. They farm down, and one Spark actually KO'd there, so that was a super close matchup there. So as you see, based on me fumbling through that commentary, it does appear that the matchup versus Bastiodon is actually slightly worse now after the Spark nerf in terms of energy and buff in terms of damage. So yeah, it took me a hell of a time to actually get that sentence to formulate in my mind, but we managed to get through it in the end as we pick up a Pelipper lead here in the next battle. And Pelipper no-shields that Weather Ball, so actually able to take the lead there. And the opponent has a Registeel in the back, and they have a Venusaur in the back as well. So maybe it would have been better to just stay in with the Ninetales and let the Ninetales go down, because now, unfortunately, the Runerigus is going to be aligned to this Venusaur. They're going to KO the Runerigus, and now Lantern is down a shield. The Ninetales is not going to make the Dazzling Gleam. This should be KOing. Probably would have been better just to chip with the Weather Ball there and maybe go double Weather Ball, because now Lantern down a shield, I don't think is going to win this matchup, and the opponent probably is just going to shield this up, recognizing that they're going to be Zap Cannoning him and probably debuffing his attack more than likely, and does get the attack drop, and yeah, this is just game over now. Probably should have gone for the Surf bait there, but either way, when you're in a situation where you recognize you have something that's a hard answer to a Pokemon, like Runerigus fully walls all the charge moves by Registeel, and even the lock-ons, I guess they're only going to do 1 damage anyway, but what he could have done there is just stay in with the Ninetales, chip that, and then basically had the Runerigus aligned to the Registeel, and the Registeel would have had absolutely nowhere to hide against that, unfortunately. Now, the thing is, the Lantern then would have been aligned to the Venusaur, so it still might have been very tricky, but either way, you know, he didn't know that they had a Venusaur in the back, so either way, we do lose that battle, and there is a Steelix here in the next battle. And Steelix actually has a pretty bad matchup against the Ninetales, because the Dragon Tails and Breaking Swipes are going to be fully walled, and Earthquake does not one-shot. The opponent does full send it, but if the Ninetales wanted to, he could have let that go and not been in danger of being Dragon Tailed farmed down. Did want to just preserve the health on the Ninetales, which I totally understand, because the opponent stayed into a pretty rough lead, so the Ninetales could have some play in the back, and the opponent actually safe switches into a Carbink, and Carbink is just absolutely going to get destroyed here by this Runerigus. They actually go for a Rock Slide bait as well, and here I'd like to just see him go for the Shadow Ball. The opponent is probably not going to be shielding this, recognizing they're in a very bad matchup, and sure enough, they do actually no-shield that. And is this enough for a Moonblast? He's calling that it is not, and it is just a Rock Slide. So yeah, does win the matchup, but is not as healthy now after throwing that Sand Tomb. So it'd been nice there to take the Carbink out with the Shadow Ball. Actually does simultaneously KO there, and there's actually a Medicham in the back, and at this point, this should be a GG. I think you just go straight Dazzling Gleam here, and then save your last shield for the Lantern. And yeah, that's exactly what he's going to do, and I believe you should just be able to go straight Surf, and 3 Surfs here should be enough to KO. And honestly, by the time these Sparks add up, 1 Surf actually might just about be enough, and the opponent actually calls the bait there. He goes straight for the Thunderbolt, and I believe this should be GG. Now, you could even save the shield for the Ninetales now. They actually bait with an Ice Punch as well, and he gets to the Surf. No reason to really throw that Surf, as the Ninetales can just come in and Powder Snow down. But either way, takes the game, as the, for some reason, invisible Medicham is going to go down here to the Fairy. And that is going to be a GG. I believe we have, like, maybe 2 battles left, folks, as we pick up another absolutely incredible lead. And this Shadow Shiny Gligar is actually staying into this Ninetales, and I love actually the play there of throwing the Weather Ball, and throws the second one, and the opponent loses CMP, and they go down both shields. And at this point, the opponent is cueing us into the fact that they are so weak to this Ninetales. So what I actually would like to see here is just a double shield and farm down, and then probably a Sig Switch out of there. The Dig does do massive damage and nearly KOs, and they have a Bastiodon in the back. So yeah, my guess is based on this team comp, it's probably a Medicham in the back. So what he probably should have done there is double shield there, and then as soon as the Bastiodon comes in, instantly pivot into the Lantern, which probably draws out the Medicham, and then the Runerigus is aligned to the Bastiodon in the back. But the nice thing for him there is the Runerigus just massively core broke that back line anyway, so it really didn't matter. He had the game in the bag regardless. But oftentimes when you see something on the lead like a Gligar and they stay in, you have to just understand that basically they're so weak in the back, so you have to preserve health on the Ninetales. But either way, I'm not saying he played the matchup poorly. I think he actually played the matchup very well, but that's just something to think about when you're playing out the lead like that. And anyway, in the next battle, there was actually a Haxorus, a shiny Haxorus on the lead, and I believe the opponent pivoted into the Lantern, and then he actually met the Lantern with his own Lantern, so probably would have been nice to get some chip damage on that Lantern first before switching into your own, because basically if you switch into a mirror matchup behind on energy, you're basically guaranteed to lose that matchup. The nice thing is, the Runerigus has a pretty nice Haxorus matchup as well, so I think he just recognized that he didn't really need switch advantage there, so just maintains a shield, and the opponent actually brings back in the Haxorus, and if this is a breaking swipe, he actually might live it, but no, just plays it safe, wants to make sure that he can get this damage off, and hopefully Runerigus has a good matchup in the back, because it's basically going to be Runerigus versus their backline, and they actually have a Purified Golbat in the back, and I don't quite think the Shadow Ball is going to KO, but at the same time, I don't think that a Shadow Ball is going to KO this Runerigus either. And the opponent basically has to come out of this matchup with a Poison Fang loaded for the Ninetales. It does actually KO, but they just barely did not bank the Poison Fang. And that is a GG. And guys, into the final battle here before he hits Veteran. And this is against a former legend, actually a current legend as well. They had the legend badge. And the opponent is running some Spice. Shadow Dragonair on the lead. They safe switch into a Galarian Rapidash. And honestly, you can just shield once here, fully farm all the way down, and if they bring back in that Shadow Dragonair is not going to want to appreciate this energy from the Runerigus. Now, if this was me, I would full send the Shadow Ball, because again, the opponent is not going to be incentivized to shield, considering there's an Alolan Ninetales on the lead, but now he full sends it, and they call the bait again, and he Shadow Balls them, and there's a Primeape in the back, and guys, this is going to be clinching the legend, or the Veteran push here, as the Night Slash doesn't KO, gets the Sand Tomb off, and now you could just bring in the A9, force their energy, and then farm down with the Lantern. But no, just brings in the Lantern to play it safe. And the opponent is actually going to lose that battle with 2 shields still in play and takes the win. Very nicely done. As we see him claim, I believe that's a 4-1. Maybe, no, it's a 5-0 actually. That is a 5-0 to push to Veteran. And honestly, folks, despite the fact that these battles were played in like the Ace to Veteran range, I think this trainer played very well. And if he keeps playing like this, he will have no problem whatsoever hitting Expert. And very nicely done. Very cool battles and a very fun triple shiny team by Papa Legba. So again, thank you to him for sending in the battles. I had a lot of fun commentating on them. And if you guys want to submit your own battles to the channel, I do have a battle submission form in the description. It's always in the description if you guys want to send me in some content. And that being said, if you are new to the channel, thank you for watching the video. Please consider subscribing, because the more subscribers we can get, the more Pokemon my wife will let me play.